Hello 7 Red. Today I'm going to talk to you about Rameses II, who is probably the most famous of the pharaohs of ancient Egypt. He was from the 19th dynasty of families who ruled ancient Egypt. As you might remember from a previous presentation, each dynasty was a series of rulers related to one another by blood. A new dynasty would begin when somebody else seized the throne, normally somebody who was not related to the previous pharaoh. So he was from the 19th dynasty. He reigned during the New Kingdom, so the third major period of success in ancient Egyptian history. He is the longest reigning of the pharaohs, reigning from 1279 to 1213 BC. So a very long time indeed. So why do we remember Rameses II? Apart from the fact that he was the longest of the pharaohs, Egypt was greatly expanded under his rule. This was most prominent in the south of Egypt, where the Nubians and African peoples who lived to Egypt's south were defeated and pushed back so that Egypt expanded the land under its control. Rameses built an imposing monument known as Abu Simbel, whose image you saw on the previous page. The purpose of that structure was to scare away African invaders from the south by showing them the might of his power and authority. In the image on this page, you can see the body of Rameses, mummified thousands of years later. So his body is still intact today, like you can see on the image on this page. He also was known for the great love he had for his wife, Nefertiti. Most pharaohs did not show a lot of affections to their spouses, but he built a great tomb for her in the Valley of the Queens, where she is buried, and that is unprecedented. On this page, I've listed the reasons why Rameses II is so well remembered. There is a third reason, however, which I'm going to explain to you now. In addition to expanding the empire to the south against Nubia, he also expanded it to the north, where he managed to control most of what is now modern Israel and Lebanon. In what is modern-day Turkey, there was an empire known as the Hittite Empire, and they were moving southwards, expanding their power. Not surprisingly, they came into conflict with the ancient Egyptians. There is a famous Battle of Kadesh, which we'll now talk about. Kadesh was a town that was basically right in the middle of the border between the Hittites and the ancient Egyptians. The Hittites wanted to move south, and the Egyptians wanted to move north. So conflict was expected. Okay, this image here is a map of the two empires and where they met. The town of Kadesh, here it's spelt with a Q, but in English it's spelt with a K, was the border between those two empires. Rameses' forces came from the south, obviously, and the Hittites' forces came from the north, and they met there. This image at the top shows the positions of the armies. There were 3 divisions, that was groups of men who were soldiers in the battle on the side of Egypt. There was the Ptah division, the Ra division, and the Amun division that was already camped at the river near Kadesh. The Hittites were camped on the other side of the river. As you can see here, the Hittites went south and then crossed the river, where they encountered the Egyptians here. And as you can see here, it was a surprise. So the Egyptians were very surprised that this had occurred. This led to a very long and bloody battle in which thousands of lives were lost. However, when Rameses returned to Egypt, the way in which the scribes and the artists portrayed the battle was that of a great victory. This image here shows Rameses attacking and killing many of the Hittites who are represented as these people here. So the people of Egypt were effectively lied to about the result. The reality is that Kadesh represented the end of major battles between the Hittites and the Egyptians for the time being. The Egyptians retreated back to Egypt, and the Hittites retreated back to the homeland where they had come from. Eventually, a peace treaty was signed, and that involved the giving of a Hittite bride to Rameses. I have mentioned his earlier wife, Nefertiti, but ancient Egyptians practiced polygamy, which means they had more than one wife. So it was effectively a stalemate. What that shows us is the way in which ancient Egyptian rulers used art and writing to present an image of themselves which was in many cases different from reality. And that's something that historians have to remember when they are looking at ancient Egyptian artifacts. The pharaohs always want to present themselves in a good light, so you need to dig a little deeper to find the true story.